Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Subhi Chaturvedi, and thank you so much for having me on the panel today. I'm truly delighted that the ET government team decided to take this up. The timing could be more appropriate. We're celebrating India's journey. Many congratulations to everybody who decided to participate and put forth their view. I'm really excited to have this conversation today because we're speaking about something that's very, very close to my heart. When we look at India's charting out India's journey towards the $5 trillion economy, it's very important that we start having conversations and more conversations about skilling, reskilling, upskilling, specifically in the context of creating future ready talent that is going to be at the center of innovation. And this is what the crux of my conversation today will be. I will try and lay out what is it that we think are the issues facing us today and what should be our path forward with the solutions approach. So thank you once again for joining me. I believe that something that is very, very unusual, and we call it the Black Swan event, took place. That's the COVID-19 pandemic that we're dealing with for the last 2 years. This is not just India, this is global. And today we live in a world that is largely interconnected. When that happens, the probability of that happening is very, very low. But when such an event takes place, there is always a paradigm shift. For a lot of people, it has meant loss of lives. It has been an extremely unfortunate and tragic time, and India has not been left untouched. But we've put forth a very, very resilient approach to how we're going to come back, how we're going to continue to fight this pandemic, and yet look at growth, look at development. And to be able to do this, I think it's very important that we recognize that this pandemic alone has left 1.6 billion learners in more than 190 countries feeling the impact of the lockdown restrictions that came with the pandemic. It has meant loss of livelihoods, it has meant loss of jobs. So what we're doing today, and that's why I say it's extremely important and pertinent to have this conversation, because the only way forward is bringing in a bottom-up, inclusive reskilling revolution. And this is required to provide better jobs, to better skills and education to nearly 3.9 billion people between 2020 and 25. In order to address this tech talent gap that exists in the market right now, there are several studies that have been put out to looking at problems, looking at them with the solutions approach. A recent study by NASSCOM talks about the need to increase digital skills by almost up to 9 times by 2025. This study also goes on to point out that IT firms, which have been witnessing a 30% growth in digital deals and 80% jump in cloud spending, will continue to witness an increase of over 15% in customer experience spending. But the most critical aspect is the lack of future ready talent. So what is it that we need to do? This is where we make the argument as to why skilling is needed, and I can't emphasize that enough. We have a young population, which is always a valued asset for any country. There's a demographic dividend, but if this is not educated, skilled, or trained properly, this is what can become a rapid challenge. And this is where a real transformation is needed. So for the past few decades, it's been essential for India to skill its young population, make them employment ready, make them ready for the future of work, for the future of jobs. So the new normal that has forced us to adopt emerging technologies, that has happened at a remarkable rate. Such technologies improve access for people in remote areas, locations, and they're the ones that are required for improving quality of life for all. I come from the internet. The larger part of my journey has been about putting forth India's point of view at the global stage. I was one of the first Indians to be on the United Nations MAG, appointed directly by the UN Secretary General, representing 2 stakeholder groups. And this is where some of the first conversations took place, when we were able to showcase the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of Digital India. So for the first time in 2013, India was not talking about, taking from the world. When 2014 came, we subsequently were able to put forth a ready to take to the market, take to the world model of Digital India with all its 3 pillars. To keep this growth path forward, to keep development going, we will continue to need skilled manpower. In India alone, it is estimated that as on October 2020, over 32 crore school learners were impacted, including 16.7 crore secondary and higher education learners. On the occasion of the 6th anniversary anniversary of Digital India this year, the Honorable Indian Prime Minister stated that his vision of how data, demographic, technological prowess will truly go on to make the next decade for India. So what is it that we're now looking for? It is with this vision that skilling initiatives across the country can truly transform into effective solutions of addressing the emerging challenges. According to WEF, around 50% of our current workforce will need reskilling or upskilling for better technology adoption. In India, there are about 290 million people in industry and service sectors, where skilling 50% of that is going to be nearly an impossible task if we stick to our current and traditional forms of learning and education alone. So what we're truly looking for, and this is what I'm advocating, is solutions that are accessible, solutions which are affordable, and solutions which are engaging, that make learning and skilling fun, that lead to a higher retention and recall. And we need innovative solutions to facilitate and truly bring in the age of innovation. So data from a job site, indeed, it showed way back in 2019 that STEM-related job roles in India are amongst the most promising for job seekers, as these job openings can be seen, showing consistent growth in the past 3 years to the tune of almost 40% of all jobs posted between November 2016 and 2019 have all been around the same set of skill sets that are requested. So as technology is now firmly taken center stage, the transition of workers towards more sustainable job opportunities is one of the most challenging situations currently. If you look at the clarion call of Atmanirbhar Bharat, or a self-reliant Bharat empowered by Digital India by Prime Minister Modi, it has asked young Indians to innovate. It has asked them to take up entrepreneurship, to build solutions in every sphere of the economy, right from entertainment through digital platforms to health tech. Many of us answered the clarion call, and you have seen nearly 30 startups which have come up with homegrown solutions to tackle the pandemic. The COVID Innovations Deployment Accelerator, or CDI, which is now popularly called, it received over 1,100 applications, out of which 30 innovations were in critical categories, and they included diagnostic kits, ventilators, remote monitoring, preventive technologies. They were all accepted for the first time as accessible solutions for India, in India and by India. And that is the power of innovation that young Indian youth can truly bring. What we're asking for, therefore, is give them the right policy environment, give them the right encouragement, support, and the right set of skilling where they can scale and take these solutions to market. How has the government response been? It is very surprising, the kind of journey that we have made, and it's also equally encouraging. In 2015, Skill India was launched under the visionary leadership of the Prime Minister Modi, with the objective of creating an empowered workforce by 2020. Under the initiative, the Skill India program has already trained 1.07 crore Indians by 2021, achieving the target despite several unprecedented challenges. Backed by rapid digitalization, it is essential that over the next 5 years, India aggressively creates up-to-date digitized TVET programs under Skill India and various public and private initiatives, while continuing to leverage the digital medium such as eSkill India to impart training across geographies. Now let's look at what is in store for us. What is at stake? What is the opportunity that is staring us in the face today? We often only talk about challenges. We forget to celebrate the work that we've done, or we start not looking at the opportunities enough. In finding the right solutions for skilling in India, this is going to be the single biggest innovation in education, in affordable and accessible education. The pandemic has impacted young girls the most. It's impacted marginalized and the poor the most. And this is when you can truly build bridges for an inclusive digital India. So training sectors, since the introduction of computers, creating new solutions of skilling, and they'll need to be affordable, they'll need to be flexible, they'll need to be language agnostic or local language adaptable, as I like to call it, and pervasive. This can open up gates for improved access to critical services and financial literacy for everyone. So skilling across sectors will unlock unforeseen advances in every industry. New technologies will be developed faster, and there will be faster adoption of those technologies. You're looking at at digital natives today, India alone, you'd be amazed to know that there are over 200 million keypad literates. They've never been to school, but they type in Roman and they're communicating with each other. They include your domestic helps, they include your guards, they include your drivers. So everybody has now become an innovator. Modern innovation today is dependent, and this is at the core of the problem: digital literacy and skills, and not huge infrastructure and capital. So more the number of people that are skilled in the country, the more innovation we will see. Indians inherently by nature understand frugal innovation. And this is one of my favorite stories that I like to tell, which was shared by a very, very eminent bureaucrat. And I see him more as a technocrat. When the tsunami happened, fishermen in India were given GPSs to make sure that they come back safely to the shore. By day 3 of the week, what they started doing was they started using these same GPSs to mark where the maximum catch of fish were. So this is where, you give them one use of technology and they'll be able to adapt themselves. They'll be able to scale much, much faster. So what we are making a case for largely is by skilling more people, we will make them job ready, which is a major contributor to unemployment today in the country. And the gap between a job opportunity and employment readiness will also be addressed. So the problem that we're solving for, no traditional learning or skilling program or mechanism can work for such a big number in such a short time. What we need to target is at least 140 million people. And this is truly an unprecedented number. So an innovative solution that we can all look at, we can all explore. It is well established that video and game-based learning enhances retention. It enhances cognitive functions, it enhances motivation, and it leads to greater performance. So in fact, educational games have a much higher potential to motivate. If I were to quote a study, 79% of corporate and university learners have admitted that game-based learning environments will increase their motivation and lead to higher productiveness. Also, if you look at research, gamified e-learning experiences increases student score by almost 14% in a skill-based knowledge assessment, while increasing knowledge retention by 9%. So gamification in India today, especially in the context that we live in, a lot of India today still lives in villages. They do not have access to tech. And this is where simplifying solutions, revolutionizing TVET programs by making them more engaging, by making them immersive, and by making them participatory, not looking at a top-down model, but a truly bottom-up model, is another massive advantage. So if you look at a conventional virtual learning ecosystem, various courses and modules have been translated into numerous state languages, even major dialects, to cater to the rapid respective target audience growth. However, if you look at gamification, the same courses can be made largely language agnostic. They enhance effectiveness of the course, and they reduce cost and time implications of undertaking massive translations. This helps you scale very, very fast. This helps you look at the choice that is available, look at the innovation that is available. So gaming and gamification companies in India today are bringing forth this innovation in learning with their massive reach as well as gaming expertise. They make learning fun, they make learning engaging. And there are several case studies where multinational companies have gone on and they've used gamification and game-based learning to skill and train thousands of their employees in a matter of weeks. The training is fun, the recall is much higher, and the results have been truly impressive. So what we're also advocating for is a similar approach at a national and regional level, and that we're sure will drive terrific results. If I were to look at the way forward, how do we do this? So one is, what is the problem? What is the opportunity? Now let's look at the solutions. A public-private partnership in this regard will be indeed the best way forward, because we're still a developing country, we're still an emerging economy. Policy makers therefore need to work with gaming companies, gamification companies. They can create roadmaps and build in academia to create centers of excellence. This helps in a rich outcome where, a recent study even talked about how 40% of our engineers were not directly ready for employment. So you don't have to bridge them. You can make sure that they're ready to take on job opportunities, and they can look at enriched programs and value additions. what you can also end up doing as a result is skilling at a massive scale. So this is where we need to build infrastructure and access to reach people we aim to skill or train. And nothing better than the platform of Digital India, which has proved that it can actually turn billions of dreams into reality. I am a huge votary of the program. This is one of the most successful initiatives that has seen the government not only put up critical infrastructure, empower citizens, but also bring in critical services online. And one of the most flagship programs that I'd like to call out is BharatNet. So what you're looking at is high-speed internet that is going to connect over 250,000 village panchayats, over 600,000 villages, and look at local language and local content. So government's target to create hyperscale data centers, futuristic digital infoways, and not just highways that connect education, research institutions, government, and skilling, therefore, will enable these steps in building what I call and what we're popularly learning to call our soonicorns. These are soon to be unicorns. And we've only seen, we're in month 8 of this year, 2021. We've already received 21 unicorns. This will further realize the dream of Make in India and Make for the World. So in conclusion, I want to tip my hat to the fact that we've just celebrated 2 weeks ago, 6 years of Digital India. And these are some of the concrete steps that I can lay out as a roadmap to follow for digital transformation of a nation, which is now looking at a new normal for Digital 4.0. And this is how we can truly contribute to India's success story towards fulfilling the $5 trillion dream that we have for our economy. So point number one, it's important that we inculcate scientific temper where perception doesn't drive policy, access to data and lowering further cost of devices, especially smartphones. We have currently 600 million users with smartphones, but the number of internet users are far higher. The moment we bring these costs down further, high-speed technology and seamless connectivity like 5G and 6G can truly change how we live, how we work, how we play. Lastly, most important, quality and language content. Creating a safe and secure and a productive cyberspace with you have clear spaces for redressal, you have ombudsman, you have grievance redressal officers who are recognizable, easily identifiable, and coupling that with India's goals, which meet sustainability, which look at social impact, renewable sources of energy, seamless power supply, green technology, and most importantly, bringing more and more government services online where departments talk to each other. So innovative, in conclusion, innovative skilling solutions, which look at gamification, which look at game-based learning, they're the ones who can truly bring in partnerships with the government, bring in industry and academia together. And I promise you, we do this right, and we're looking at truly a self-reliant and Atmanirbhar Bharat, where each citizen is fully connected and truly empowered. Thank you so much once again, the ET government team, and many congratulations for putting together ET Digitech. I'm looking forward to the conversations and deliberations during the day. Thank you for listening.